listening to Cassphere Podcast.
Welcome back to Cassphere Podcast, where we talk about AI news, technical knowledge, and everything in life. I'm your host, Truffle.
And I'm Olive, your host.
This week we're back with our 7-episode series, all about important figures in AI.
Yep. Last week we did a deep dive into the incredible journey of Ilya Sutskever, the former chief scientist of OpenAI.
And this week we're going even deeper
into
the AI Hall of Fame to explore the legend himself, Geoffrey Hinton. You might know him as the Godfather of AI.
Okay, Godfather. What makes him so legendary? I mean, he wasn't born with a neural network, was he?
Right. That's what makes his story so interesting. He wasn't always around computers and stuff. Hinton was born way back in 1947. He actually started out studying experimental psychology at the University of Cambridge.
Yeah. He graduated in 1970 and even went on to get his PhD in 1978, but not in computer science, right? Artificial intelligence from the University of Edinburgh.
So he went from trying to understand the human mind to building artificial ones. That's kind of a big jump.
It is. But it shows you something interesting about Hinton. His whole career has been about this curiosity about how intelligence works, no matter if it's biological or artificial.
So this leads him to neural networks. That was like the core of his work.
Exactly. Now, for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with neural networks, imagine trying to rebuild a brain in a computer. Billions of tiny nodes all connected like neurons, processing and sending information.
So instead of a brain, it's code and algorithms.
Yeah.
Trying to do what brains do.
Exactly. And Hinton was one of the first people really pushing this idea, even when it wasn't popular in AI research.
So he had to have a lot of conviction to stick with that when no one else really believed in it.
Totally. But here's where things get interesting. 1986, Hinton has this breakthrough. Backpropagation. And this is where his work starts to affect all of us.
Backpropagation. That sounds kind of complex. What is it?
Sure. Imagine you're teaching a dog a trick. You give it a treat when it does it right, and after a while, the dog learns to do the trick to get the treat. Backpropagation is kind of like that. It's a way to train a neural network by adjusting its connections based on how well it does a task.
So instead of treats, it's math that teaches the neural network.
Exactly. And this might seem technical, but it's a big reason why AI is so powerful today.
I see. But how does this algorithm from way back then connect to, like, my phone recognizing my face? Or Spotify knowing what music I like?
That's the amazing thing. Backpropagation led to what we call deep learning, and that's behind so many AI things we use every day.
So the next time Spotify picks the perfect song, I can thank Geoffrey Hinton for that.
You got it. His work made those algorithms possible.
And this brings us to someone else important in AI. We talked about him last week, Ilya Sutskever. What's the connection between him and Hinton?
Well, it's more than a connection. It's mentorship, collaboration, mutual respect. It really shaped AI research.
And it all started with Sutskever being pretty bold, right?
Totally. Picture this. It's Sunday afternoon. Instead of, relaxing or studying, Sutskever, who's just finished his master's, shows up at Hinton's office.
On a Sunday. That's brave.
He wasn't just there for a chat. He wanted to work in Hinton's lab for the summer, instead of flipping burgers, which was his other option.
Wow, that shows dedication. So what did Hinton do? Slam the door in his face for interrupting his weekend?
No. Hinton thought that was pretty interesting and agreed to meet him. But Sutskever didn't just want a job. He came ready to argue. He challenged Hinton's ideas.
He argued with Geoffrey Hinton. As a student.
He did. And it wasn't arrogance either. He dove into Hinton's paper on backpropagation and suggested improvements that took years to actually work out.
That's wild. So they're like intellectual equals right away, pushing each other to think harder and innovate.
Exactly. It wasn't the typical teacher-student thing. It was a true meeting of minds, sharing this passion for intelligence.
And this is what led to AlexNet, that neural network that changed image recognition.
You got it. AlexNet, named after one of their students, Alex Krizhevsky, showed off their combined brilliance. It just crushed image recognition competitions. It proved that deep learning, which Hinton had been saying was the future, actually worked really well.
So this was a turning point for AI. The moment the world started paying attention to Hinton and his team.
For sure. AlexNet was like a bolt of lightning, showing everyone what deep learning could do. It went from this niche research area to the mainstream.
And then they started a company, right? DNN Research, focused on deep neural networks, which Google bought for like $44 million.
That's right. But here's a cool detail. When they were splitting the money from the acquisition, Sutskever and Krzyzewski wanted Hinton to take more.
Wow, that shows how much they respected Hinton. They put his well-being above their own money.
It really shows their bond and their admiration for the man who helped them get there.
But they didn't all stay together, did they? Hinton kept working at Google Brain, but Sutskever co-founded OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT and this whole AI revolution.
It's fascinating how their journeys, which started with that Sunday meeting, had such huge impacts on AI.
And speaking of impact, we can't forget the ultimate recognition, the Nobel Prize.
Right. In 2024, Hinton won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Because of how much his neural network research changed science, he shared it with John Hopfield, another pioneer in the field.
So the work that seemed out there decades ago is now being celebrated by the world.
Exactly. And get this, Hinton was actually surprised he won. He had no idea. It's kind of endearing, don't you think? This giant figure in AI, totally surprised.
He's like a humble genius. We've talked about a lot today. From Hinton's early psychology work to neural networks, his work with Sutskever, and the Nobel Prize. But there's one more important part of his story, his warnings about the risks of AI.
Yeah, that's right. He spent his life building AI, but now he's a vocal critic, telling us to be careful and responsible with this technology.
It's like he's seen the future. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. We need to explore that part of his story.
For sure. Let's do that.
Hinton's become a critic of the very tech he helped create. He says we need to be careful and responsible with AI.
It's wild, right? The Godfather of AI, after all this work, is warning us about AI.
Almost like he's saying, I've seen where this goes and we need to watch out. What are his worries? Is he thinking robots are going to take over?
Well, those sci-fi scenarios are fun for movies. But Hinton's concerns are more about reality, how AI is being developed and used right now.
So less Terminator, more everyday stuff. What worries him?
He's really worried about AI making current problems worse, especially misinformation and manipulation.
Like deepfakes. Those videos that look real but are totally fake, used to spread lies or ruin reputations.
Exactly. As AI gets better, it's easier to make deepfakes that trick anyone. This could make people lose trust in the media, institutions, even each other.
That's scary, especially with how fast things spread online. It's like a weapon of mass deception.
Powerful way to put it. And Hinton knows this tech can be used for bad stuff. Propaganda, manipulating people, even inciting violence.
It's like a new kind of information war, fought not on land, but in our minds.
And our old defenses might not work there. We need new tools and strategies to fight misinformation in the age of AI.
We need some kind of digital immune system to protect us from these bad ideas spreading like viruses.
Great analogy. We need to be smarter about the information we consume. Think critically. Figure out what's real. Watch out for things that try to make us react too emotionally.
Like leveling up our digital literacy skills to survive in this crazy online world.
Right. And Hinton's not just worried about AI being used for bad stuff on purpose. He's also worried about unintended consequences, even when people have good intentions.
So even if AI isn't being weaponized, there are still downsides. What are some examples?
One thing he talks about is AI making bias worse, leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
So even if an AI is meant to be fair, it can still learn biases from the data it's trained on.
Exactly. Let's say you have an AI hiring tool. It's trained on data from a company that used to discriminate against women. Even if you try to remove bias, the AI might still favor men, because that's what it's on the data.
So human biases get into AI even if we don't realize it, like digital unconscious bias.
That's it. And this has real effects, keeping inequality going in hiring, loans, even the justice system.
So AI isn't a magic solution. It reflects our flaws. We have to remember that.
Absolutely.
But there's something else about him that I find amazing. Boltzmann machines. That was a big part of his Nobel Prize.
Ah, yes. Boltzmann machines. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it shows how Hinton can connect different ideas and push AI further.
I have to admit, Boltzmann machine sounds a little scary. Can you explain it simply?
Sure. Imagine a network of connected nodes, like a neural network. But here's the twist. These nodes follow the rules of statistical mechanics. It's a part of physics that studies systems with lots of particles.
So it's not copying the brain structure, but how particles act in a physical system.
Right. It's named after Ludwig Boltzmann, a physicist from the 1800s who was a big deal in statistical mechanics.
So Hinton connected modern AI with century-old physics. That's incredible.
It is. What's cool about Boltzmann machines is they can learn complex probabilities. Basically, they can model and predict how likely different events are.
How does that connect to the AI we use today?
Boltzmann machines are used in lots of things. image recognition, understanding language, even finding new drugs.
They've actually had a real impact on AI, even if they're not as famous as other neural networks.
True. And they're a crucial step in how deep learning, the basis of many AI systems, has evolved.
It's amazing how Hinton used psychology, computer science, and physics to change technology.
It shows that innovation often comes from unexpected places and from being willing to explore weird ideas.
Like a scientific version of thinking outside the box.
Exactly. Hinton's story shows the power of curiosity, bravery, and always wanting to learn.
This deep dive has been a wild ride, from Hinton's early days to neural networks, to mentoring Sutskever, the Nobel Prize, and now his warnings about AI. But there's one more chapter that really stands out. His relationship with Sutskever during the drama at OpenAI.
You mean the whole Sam Altman situation? It was like a Silicon Valley soap opera. Everyone was talking about it. It really brought up questions about AI's future.
Yeah, let's explore that. It seems crucial to understanding Hinton and Sutskever's vision for AI.
Okay, let's dive in.
For those who missed it, could you remind us what happened? Who are the key players?
Sure. OpenAI, you probably know, is behind ChatGPT. That AI chatbot that can write like a human. It's been making headlines.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Writing poems, composing music, coding, even marketing stuff. Everyone's trying to figure out what it can do.
And leading OpenAI was Sam Altman. Super charismatic and ambitious, really pushed the organization to grow fast and make big tech advancements.
But then, boom, the board fires him. They said they were worried about his communication and leadership.
Nobody saw it coming. It shocked everyone in tech. People were confused, trying to figure out what happened.
And right in the middle of this, Hinton comes out and publicly supports Sutskever. He was OpenAI's chief scientist and played a big part in Altman leaving.
It was a big deal. It showed how deeply they both care about AI safety and how important it is to be careful with advanced AI.
So even though they're on different paths now, Hinton researching and advocating for responsible AI, and Sutskever leading a company pushing AI boundaries, they seem to agree on the core values.
Absolutely. It shows how strong their mentor-student bond is. Hint sees Sutskever as someone who gets it, someone who shares his vision for AI being used ethically and responsibly.
It's like they're both trying to steer AI in the right direction, making sure it benefits humanity, not harms it.
I love that way of putting it. And it leaves us with this thought-provoking question. If Hinton knew then what he knows now about AI's risks, would he still have gone to that office on that Sunday? Would he have started this journey that changed everything?
That's something for all of us to consider as we move into the future of AI. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Geoffrey Hinton's incredible life. We'll be back next week with another episode in our series on the important figures of AI.